You know, I had a thought, and this occurred to me the other day. I've got another room within the Ivory Tusk that is the smoking parlor. So I decided that the next time I do a Cigar Night chapter review, I will take us and all of this equipment to the smoking lounge within the Ivory Tusk. No longer will we be here in our office. Cigar smoking is a very unique thing that should be done in a separate room, and it's a room that I haven't used in many years because I go to the cigar lounge to the club, and I regularly don't use the room. But I've decided for this show to unlock the room and dust off the furniture, so the next time we'll be in the smoking lounge. Welcome to BarbWire Strategy, and this is Cigar Night Chapter 2. Now, have you ever wondered, whenever you're out smoking your cigar, about the gentlemen in the past who have had many decades of smoking cigars, and they know all of the correct etiquette, and they understand the details that are combined in picking the right cigar. And in picking the right cigar is a very important decision. So have you ever considered gentlemen like George Burns? Some of the classic cigar smokers, George Burns or Winston Churchill or Mark Twain, who all enjoyed their cigars and were experts at smoking cigars. You look at George Burns, for example. Now, George lived for 100 years, and he had 100 years to learn all there was about cigars. But you have the opportunity, by watching BarbWire Strategy, you have the opportunity to learn in a very short time what took guys like Mark Twain or Samuel Clemens or George Burns or Winston Churchill a lifetime to learn. So tonight we have a very special fellow who can explain the profiles of cigars. And really, when it comes to cigar smoking, this is where cigar smoking begins. The proper connoisseur of the cigar knows what profile to look for, and he understands how long that cigar will last, and that allows you to pair that cigar with proper things, which, all cigars should be considered an after-dinner treat. But it depends on what you had for dinner before you had your cigar. And based on your dinner, and based on your proper drink, and based on the drink that you'll be drinking while you're smoking your cigar, all of those variables determine what type of cigar that you want to pick out. And to do that, you have to understand the profiles of cigars. So tonight we're going to learn the profiles of cigars. So we're going to go now to Paladin Cigars, where Matthew Boyer will explain to you, and he is an expert on the different profiles of cigars. So pay attention. Matthew, go ahead and tell us all about it.
Tonight we're going to talk about Vitolas, and this is a term that's kind of unfamiliar to some people, and it basically refers to the shape or size of the cigar. There's a couple of different varieties, a lot of different varieties actually, the most popular being the Toro and Grand Toro. You've got a couple of different bits of nomenclature inside of that. The length, which is the small number, a 6 would be the length in inches, and then the ring size, which is going to be in 1/64 of an inch increments. The Vitolas that we have out here tonight are pretty standard inside of the community. These are all of from the Padre Las Casas out of the Dominican Republic. We're going to start off with the Grand Toro here. It's a 6x60, so 6 inches long, 60 ring gauge, 60 ring gauge. You've got the Toro, which is a little bit smaller ring gauge. This one's a 52 by 6 inches. The Churchill, a 7-inch by 50, pretty standard Churchill profile. The Robusto, this is a 5 by 52, so not traditional. And the Torpedo here, and this is a 6 by 54. The most interesting thing about profiles is the way that it affects the blend of the tobaccos. So what I've found to be personally true is a little bit larger ring gauge makes the blend a little bit more airy, a little bit lighter, where when you start to get into the smaller ring gauges, like the 50 down to the Corona, which is a 54, you get a little bit more flavor from that blend, probably due to the wrapper filler ratio, and some may argue with me on that. And lastly, I would point out the Torpedo. The Torpedo, very underrated cigar in my opinion. Originally, this is how you would intensify the flavors on a cigar, by just taking a little bit of a tip off that Torpedo. Now we do that with V cuts and punch cuts. but this is the traditional way to intensify those flavors on a blend. When choosing a cigar and looking at these shapes or these vitolas, and you're thinking, well, why would they make them in different sizes? That's a good question. Really, realistically, when you're looking at most cigars, it's the time that you want to smoke. Your Grand Toro here is going to be about an hour and a half, maybe an hour and 45 minutes, maybe as much as 2 hours. The Toro here is about an hour and 15 minutes. Your Churchill is about the same time as this. The Grand Toro, about an hour and 30 minutes, maybe an hour and 45. Robusto is about a 45-minute cigar, and this is going to burn about the Torpedo is going to burn about the same length of time as the Toro, so about an hour and 15, an hour and a half. So when you're smoking, you don't want to put that cigar out. Choose the right Vitola. Now, when again choosing the amount of time that you smoke, there's going to be some differences from manufacturer to manufacturer, and then also the differences in the blends. Some manufacturers really value a well-constructed, tight, a little bit restrictive draw on the cigar. They know it's going to burn longer that way. Some manufacturers, they really like a nice, easy draw, barely have to pull to move that smoke or the air through the cigar. And then also, when you're talking about wrappers, some wrappers combust a little bit easier. Your Sumatrans and Connecticut's, they burn a little bit quicker, they burn easier than your Maduros do. Your Maduros are thicker, oilier, richer typically, and then so they take a little bit more to combust, so they're gonna burn a little bit slower, they're gonna take a little bit more maintenance to keep lit. But when you're choosing your cigar, obviously taste, but again, time is a huge factor in that. Just go study it, figure out which Vitola is right for you, and try different blends. I'm always a fan of exploring and finding out what's out there and what personal taste is. So when you're looking at cigars and you're thinking, well, this Torpedo costs a little bit more than this Toro does, and they're realistically the same amount of tobacco, very, very similar Vitola. Why does it cost more? Well, actually, the Figurado profiles here, the tapered tip on this, it does take longer to roll. When you're looking at Perfectos or any other type of Figurado, a Salomon, you're looking at additional time that it takes that roller to put that cigar together and make it look right. So you're actually paying for labor in that particular case. Don't be afraid of it. Try it out. See what it's like. You might really enjoy it. They do smoke different, and it might just hit your palate just right.
Thank you, Matthew, and that was absolutely terrific. And I tell you what, folks, there's going to be a whole lot more on the anatomy of cigars and other deep parts that we're going to learn about cigars. So you need to keep tuning in to Cigar Night as we put these out on BarbWire Strategy. They're a little special treat that we're going to do aside from politics. See, here's how it works. You've got politics, but the best place to discuss politics is in a cigar lounge. And believe me, when they say that all the decisions are made in smoky rooms, it's true. All the major decisions of the United States are made in smoke-filled rooms. Because the way it works is the American people, when we discuss things, we don't always discuss things over a barbed wire fence, but we do discuss things in a cigar lounge over a good cigar and a good drink. So, another aspect of cigar smoking is good etiquette. And so, throughout these cigar nights and the different chapters that we're going to have, we're going to talk about proper etiquette and just little do's and don'ts. They're just a little list, and we don't have a lot of them. I'd like for you to hear what some of the customers had to say about some of the do's and don'ts, the proper etiquette of smoking cigars. So, let's listen to those right now.
There's nothing like a great smoke. You just don't want the smoke to hang around. Ventilate the area and enjoy your cigar.
So one thing we don't like here at Paladins is dirty ashtrays. So occasionally I'll take it upon myself to walk around and pick up several ashtrays and empty them out.
People talking too much when I'm trying to enjoy my cigar.
Now, in our smoking group, we have a group of fellows we've come to be known as the Bishops. It started about, 4 or 5 years ago when they changed their name from what they used to be, Hatuays, to Paladins. And we decided that since they're going to be paladins, which that is the, in case you didn't know, that's the knight on the chessboard. That's their logo and symbol. We decided, well, our group needs a name too, associated with the chessboards. And so we decided that we would be called the Bishops. And each one of us is a different bishop, except one fella, and one fellow we call the Pope, which I know it's kind of a crossover from the chess game to the Catholic Church, but and none of us are Catholic, so it's kind of funny. We're not making fun of the Catholics. In fact, we're honoring the Catholics, you could say. And so Bruce Boyer is the Pope, and we always address him as the Pope, and we joke about kissing his ring. Let's go right now to the Pope, and let's see what he has to say about the cigar that he's smoking.
Bruce Boyer here. I'm smoking the Signet by Pepito. Pepito master blender and roller in the Dominican Republic. This is a 5-year aged cigar. Fantastic draw, unbelievable construction, and the flavor is better than filet mignon. Anyway, my recommendation is to try the Signet the next time you're in Paladin Cigars.
Another bishop that we have in the group is Father Greg. Now, he's not actually a father, and he's also not a priest. I always say that he's an EMP. Actually, he's an EMT. But regardless, Father Greg is going to tell us all about his cigar. Go ahead, Father Greg. Tell us all about your cigar.
Alright, I'm smoking the Gurkha Nicaragua, which, to be fair to Gurkha, I don't like a lot of their stuff, but this one's actually really pretty good. I'm drinking a Coke with it, so it doesn't really compete for the flavors. Being Nicaraguan, it's going to be a little spicier, and retrohaling isn't too harsh. I've been ashing it, but the ash has actually been pretty good. It's a 9 on the sweet spot. There aren't a lot of Gurkhas I like, but this is one of them.
And what's the name of the Gurkha again?
It's the Nicaraguan series.
Now, another bishop that we have in the group, his name is Blair. Monsignor Blair is what we call him. And Monsignor Blair is a credit fixer. He'll fix your credit for you. And so, right now, let's go to Monsignor Blair and find out what he has to say about his cigar.
So this is a cigar that I got from my good friend Billy. He gave it to me for my 59th birthday, and I have no idea what patent means. Nobody in the shop knows what it means, but this is a cigar called the Aladino, and look how long that cigar. To me, that's a 3-hour smoke, okay? Kind of like the Digger. I don't know if you've heard the Digger by LFD. So I am looking forward to it, and I will give you my review when I smoke it.
When do you think that'll be?
Sometime when I'm up here with Billy, because I would not smoke this without being with the guy that gave it to me.
Cool.
Maybe next weekend.
Now, a new member of the Bishop group, his name is Jason, and we don't have a complete nickname for him yet. We're going to have to do that. But he has agreed to give us his rendition and his review of his cigar. Jason, tell us all about your cigar.
So, I guess for Gurkha's sake, I haven't been a fan of theirs the last couple of years, but more recently, some of the blends that have come out have been fantastic. This is definitely one of them. Strong, but not too strong, well balanced. Since it's Nicaraguan, it's going to be a little on the spicy side, but not too spicy. I think it balances out well. I'm actually drinking a Mountain Dew with it, and it's not necessarily competing flavors. Mountain Dew finishes out fairly clean, and then this picks up and doesn't interrupt the flavor at all. Retrohaling it is not harsh. It has what I like in a cigar, where it's very smoky upon exhale. It breathes well. I get a little bit of toffee through the nose when I do that. I've been tapping the ash, but the ash has been pretty strong, pretty consistent. The outside construction of it's really tight, really nice. It pulls really nicely. This is definitely at least an 8, possibly a 9 for me. I think in the sweet spot it was definitely a 9. I'm a little towards the end here. It's kind of gone down a little bit to an 8. I think it's almost $10.
Another good friend of ours that has been in the club for a long time and a member of the Enclave is a man we know as Cadillac Billy. Now, Cadillac Billy, he worked for Cadillac for some 5 decades or so. He's retired now, and if you have any car questions, you can always go to Cadillac Billy. But Cadillac Billy has 2 specialties aside from his former career. One is that he is an expert fisherman. He's like the old man in the sea. He's like Ernest Hemingway, who was also a great cigar smoker. Cadillac Billy is also a fine connoisseur of cigars. And listen to Cadillac Billy and pay attention, because this man knows. Cadillac, tell us all about it.
Tonight I'm enjoying an Aladino Corojo Reserve, a gift from a friend of mine, Mark Gonzalez. And we're enjoying a good ball game here on a Sunday evening at our favorite, or my favorite, home away from home, Paladin's Cigars. Thank you.
Another associate of our group is a man by the name of Joe. Now, Joe is a fine dresser, and we're hoping that Joe will consider membership in our enclave. He has not been ordained as a bishop, but we're hoping that he will take this into consideration, and he's a very smart man, and he will take this into consideration. One thing that we need to find out before he is initiated into the bishops is he must come up with some kind of unique nickname before he can be accepted into the bishops. But we're hoping that he will strongly consider this invitation. Joe is an excellent connoisseur of cigars. He is a fine dresser, and he always wears the right attire and is cool as a cat when it comes to cigars. So Joe, tell us all about the cigar that you're smoking. And now listen, Joe knows. Take his recommendations to heart, because this man does know his cigars. Joe, tell us about it.
This is a Cracker Crumb. It's an Oscuro. It's an aged Habano, so it's spicy. It's just full body. So if you like a strong smoke, but don't think this is a short smoke. It'll last you about 45 minutes. You'll like it if you like spicy and strong. $3.50, but I bought it by the 5-pack, which makes it $15. So instead of getting it for $3.50, you get it for $3 each.
Now, you've already met Matthew Boyer in this chapter of Cigar Night, Chapter 2. Now I'd like for you to meet his brother. You could say it's the other half of Paladin Cigars. His name is Aaron Boyer. Tell us something we didn't know, Aaron.
So David Blanco named his line Primo because that's Spanish for cousin. Because he happens to be cousins with the Plasencia family, who makes all of the cigars that he sells on the market right now. So that's a little David Blanco history for you. I don't know the extent of their relationship, you know, how close of cousins he is. It could be 18th removed, but I know that's why he calls it Primo, in fact.
So tonight we've learned a little bit about the profiles of cigars. We've also learned some of the do's and don'ts, and we've gotten a few reviews on cigars, along with the aid of my good friends at Paladins, which I want to thank each and every one of them for their contribution to this show. So until next time, this is BarbWire Strategy, telling you to be careful to pick out the right profile for the right cigar for the right evening, and and the right discussion of politics. There's nothing worse than getting the wrong cigar and a bad taste in your mouth when you're trying to discuss important parts of politics. So always remember to get it right. Look forward to BarbWire Strategy, Cigar Night, Chapter 3. Enjoy yourself and smoke well.
It's a very good cigar. It's the finest hour after Winston Churchill. Very good cigar.